Hello everybody, OCD Mikey HiFi guy here with another installment of the OCD Mikey HiFi show. And I am going to go over a little something interesting I found in the public domain, which is class action complaint, I guess, against MoFi, filed in the United States District Court for the Western District of Washington at Seattle. In case you don't know what that means, it's a class action lawsuit. This is when there's a class of people, and let me preface this by saying, I am by no means legal counsel. I am going to read to you what I retrieved as public information, and as I understand things. Okay, so I just want you to know that before I go into what I found on the internet in legal public domain information. Okay, it appears as though a few individuals have started a class action lawsuit in the state of Washington, in Seattle, against MoFi for misrepresentation and fraud, and directly personal property fraud. That's what it's filed under. A jury trial has been demanded, according to the filing that I have here, and I've got a 14-page filing, the actual legal document. I'm going to go over this real quick so you can just get an idea of the scope of what this company is facing as alleged by the people that were allegedly deceived through their marketing of their albums. And I'm going to take excerpts that I read. What I read is going to be direct verbatim off the complaint. I'm not adding anything in of my own. I'm going to read you. I'm going to pick certain areas of it that I think are important areas, skip over the stuff like proper venue and all that other crap that needs to be established, and just get to the gut of this. I'm just going to read it verbatim, so check this out. Okay, so in the overview, which is the first section, part 2 of the overview, Music Direct advertised and otherwise represented that many of its recordings were triple analog, when in fact they were not. Plaintiffs and members of the punitive class reasonably relied upon these representations, purchased the products, and were damaged thereby. Music Direct's advertising and other statements about the analog characteristics of its products were deceptive and misleading and were the proximate cause of the plaintiffs and the class's damages. Okay, and then it goes into plaintiffs seek certification of a nationwide class action brought under the common law breach of contract, unjust enrichment, and the Illinois Consumer Fraud Act, and certification of a Washington class under the Washington Consumer Protection Unfair Business Practices Act. And then it goes into listing the parties, which I will not say. These are available. It's 2 people. One guy's from Oregon, one's from Washington. They're audiophile guys that bought records from MoFi. Then it goes into the jurisdiction and venue, saying, why it's the proper venue and jurisdiction. Now we get into the facts pertaining to the plaintiffs in the class. Okay, under Section 19, a certain subset of audiophiles favor analog recordings over the more modern digital records due to a wide range of objective and subjective criteria. In general, however, there is a belief, let's point that out, that analog recordings preserve the entire dynamic range of the sound that has been recorded, whereas digital recording limits or compresses the signal in a way that limits the dynamic range. Us all will explore that whole thing in a whole separate video, okay? But for this suit, this is what they're saying. Also, there is a certain emotional and tactile response to the handling and playing of vinyl records, which is very interesting because this is what I spoke about in my 2 videos that people got so crazy about. I'm talking about the emotional thing that people have, the nostalgia, if you will, of handling records and playing them back, vinyl, the tactile feel. And it says it right in this lawsuit. Also, I'll read this again, verbatim. Also, there is a certain emotional and tactile response to the handling and playing of vinyl records. Okay, so this is a very important part, especially the emotional part. Okay, and this is my opinion here. Okay, they're claiming that there is an emotional and tactile response, but the emotional is the key thing, because if they're seeking punitive damages, emotion is something that is probably covered under punitive. Now, this, again, is a speculation. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just going on common sense, okay? So that's an interesting part that's in the case here. Now we go on a little bit more. They use an example of a certain recording, how it says original master recording on top. And now we get in a little later in section 22. It says, now we're getting into some of the bullets. Based on this representation of quality and exclusivity, Music Direct was able to charge a high premium for the vinyl recordings it was selling. 23, the plaintiffs and the class reasonably relied on Music Direct's representations when making decisions to purchase the premium products. And then they go into some examples. They go into some things that are written, a statement by the president of MoFi, where he addresses this issue. This happened early, July 27th. It says right here that the president of MoFi said, we are aware of customer complaints regarding use of digital technology in our mastering chain. And he goes on to apologize. We apologize for using vague language, blah, blah, blah. This is his whole, the president of MoFi's whole statement. And then on section 27, it says, on information and belief, Music Direct has been materially representing the all-analog nature of some of its recordings since 2015. Again, this is alleged at this point. Also alleged, 28, the plaintiffs and the class have been induced to purchase vinyl recordings that were materially mislabeled and suffered damages as a proximate result. Okay, so now we go a little bit further into facts pertaining to the plaintiffs. It says that here that as a proximate result, he purchased a number of recordings, suffered damages. Okay, the other guy purchased a number of recordings from Music Direct at inflated prices and suffered damages. Okay, so the class allegations now that we get into in terms of, what law they're going to use as the crux of this argument is the Washington class, which would be one class, which are the guys over there, and then the national class, which is everybody included. The Washington class is defined all persons or entities during the class period in the state of Washington directly purchased. The others are, during the class period, all of the U.S. territories and possessions directly purchased from Music Direct. So it could be potentially a lot of people. Right now it's 2 people on here, but it could be representing many, many people. So we will go a little further in. We'll go to the causes of action now. Now this is actually the part where these are the laws that they are claiming were abridged or unlawful, if you will. The first one is the Washington Consumer Protection Act. This is for the Washington class. This goes into, and it says, it's about Washington's Consumer Protection Unfair Business Practices Act. Number 51, plaintiffs and the class suffered damages that were proximate results of the defendant's wrongful conduct. And then that's followed up by 52, number 52, that says, plaintiffs and the class are entitled to recover actual damages, treble damages up to $25,000 per violation, prejudgment interest, and attorney's fees and costs. Okay, so that's the first count that they could potentially be liable for. $25,000 per violation, interest, and attorney's fees and costs. Now we go to the count 2, the second count, breach of contract for the national class, not the Washington class. And this says the defendant offered for sale products that it represented were triple analog or all analog, were from an all analog mastering chain. Plaintiffs in the class accepted the offer of the products as described by the defendant. The products offered by the defendant were sold with a stated or implied warranty of fitness for a particular purpose. 58, as a proximate result of the defendant's breaches of warranty, the plaintiff and the class suffered economic injury in the amount of the purchase prices paid for the records, and are entitled to recover these sums with prejudgment interest. Okay, and then count 3 is unjust enrichment for the national class. So, as a proximate result of its wrongful conduct, the defendant has been unjustly enriched in the amount of the sale prices of the subject merchandise, and plaintiffs in the class are entitled to recover these sums. That could be potentially huge. Again, they're talking about the full amount of enrichment or profit, I would guess, I would understand, in the amount of the sale prices of the subject merchandise. This means like everything's sold. And the plaintiffs in the class are entitled to recover these sums. So that could be feasibly very large, it would seem. And then count number 4 is breach of the Illinois Consumer Fraud Act. And that is also part of the national class. That says the plaintiffs in the class are entitled to recover actual damages, prejudgment interest, exemplary damages, attorney's fees, and costs to the extent provided by law. So there's several angles of this that they could be potentially liable for damages and monetary dues. So this is going to be interesting to see what the defense is. This would actually be a very interesting, and it's going to be a trial. This is a demand for a jury trial. This would be very interesting to see how this plays out. To see how they're going to defend this is going to be quite interesting, I believe. And those are the main things. This whole thing is escalating. It's turning into a class action suit here. This is a class action complaint. And this could be quite a misstep in terms of MoFi's actions in this or inactions in this case. So I just wanted to bring you some news, which and I don't know that's necessarily news or whatever, but this is fact. I'm reading this off a public document, which is a filing for a class action lawsuit against MoFi, and that's everything that I'm talking about is right here. This is actual fact. This is not speculation. A couple of my opinions were in there, and I told you what they were. And so this is very interesting, a very interesting development, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. I have no dog in the game. I have no relationship with MoFi. I have never purchased anything from MoFi. I have no, ill feeling against them because I don't even use vinyl. So, but nonetheless, this is very, very interesting. I guess a couple people got pretty upset that they thought they were having all vinyl or all analog, and when the people that were mastering it decided to use a digital step. And we are going to dig into this more because I know how everybody in their little armchair leaving comments here likes to act like they know what's up with the production when really they're not production guys. So you will see some interesting videos coming up soon, and we will have a great discussion. Okay, see ya. Thanks for joining.